Hey, welcome back. My name's Tony. I'm a dev, and this is Sage Dev. And apparently, I'm a dev and a YouTuber now. I have a surprising amount of support, so thank you, everybody watching this. Can subscribe, and we'll see how far we can take it. But anyway, this is where we're at. So yesterday, we set up our login flow. So we have our login. And we can enter a username and password. I don't care what. Those crash. Oh, I already have one for you? All right, fine. We can enter our username and password, and it sends 2FA out to our on local mail server and then verifies back, and you can authenticate that way. I'm probably going to have to set up a new test user to handle that. That being said, the next step in this process is probably their profile page. I think the profile page will probably have two different parts. A new user profile form where we can enter our data and store it on the database, and then a actual profile form where you can see what you've entered. I think for the profile, we'll probably have them opt in. I am a truck driver first, and then, or I have a food truck or whatever, farmer's market booth or something first, and then populate the form so that if they are a driver, then they can enter truck information. Yeah, I think that's as far out as I've thought about it so far. Before we move into that, though, I forgot I need to get SQLAce. I want to talk about the database. Actually, when in doubt, get it through Brew. Because Brew is more on top of it and automatically updates when you run it and all of those good things. So we'll do a Brew install SQLAce. And that's going to set up SQLAce. SQLAce is just a way to visually see your data instead of having to run SQL queries over and over again. And I have a bunch of outdated stuff apparently, so it's going to run. Let's see, does it tell me? Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to connect to the. That's ridiculous. Anyway, with SQLAce, we can build a route as a shortcut, but basically, everything that you need is going to be in the Lando info file. I just want to get a look at the data. It's important to keep it normalized. We want to make sure that we don't have any weirdness happening with our database. It's when you start seeing SQL query run issues, it's where you start seeing things go wrong. That's one upside of using like Mongo or some other document-driven structure, is that you don't run into as many data loops or things that are going to make it weird when you're entering your SQL queries. Not that this will use SQL queries. I'm assuming it'll do its own thing. But when we set it up, we are using Laravel MariaDB, host 127.0.0.1, port 3306. And I think we locked that in a pin. Yeah, 3306. So when we set it up, once it's installed, let's see if it's done. Successfully installed. So let's open it. And there's about 1 million systems like this you can use. I'm just going to use a one line, so it looks like our user, password, and database are all the same. So that's good for local. User, password, database, and port is 3306, and our host is going to be the 127.0.0.1, which is very standard. And we will connect. Okay, so this is our existing database structure. So far, all that we've done is some email verifications. With this tool, it's nice. You can see your database structure, and then you can see content. You can see what we did to encode those passwords. We've got that, and then we have under users, the email, password that's hard-coded encrypted. We never want to see that, So that's a good thing. And a name. I think when we move forward throughout this process, our ID is probably going to be our primary key so that we can have more than one "this is buggy, frustrating" user, and we can use the ID as the primary key. I might designate a separate key potentially, but this will all line up with our database structure, which they have this whole database factory with all the bits and bobs, but I think these migrations are what we're really looking for. See, we did this initial work on the 26th. So when we entered it on the 26th, that's when it added this. It looks like it adds a migration for any time that we are updating, and that's a dbup command. So this roughly translates into SQL, which is fine. So if we looked at the email verification table, because it created that schema, it should match that. So we have ID, email is a string, code is a hashed string, and then the timestamp expiry. And this would be, we expire this at a set time so that if somebody needs to log in again, they can log in again. I could do a remember me type cookie, but I feel like that's excessive for our use case, and no one's going to be on here for a week. It's my portfolio. Anyway, so that is the basic structure that starts with. Some of these are going to be a little bit redundant. I'm not executing any migrations, so setting things into jobs and batches is not going to be necessary. Our cache sets in here too, so that it can say I'm going to cache this particular result. I don't think we're going to get much out of that. Usually you would cache for a site that everybody's hitting the same page, like the welcome page. But because we want to use the user's geolocation as an entry point, it's not really something that serves us. I want this to be global, so I don't want someone logging in India to have to see the food trucks in Los Angeles or something. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so that is SQLAce, and I'm not playing favorites. There's a ton of them just like it. But if you do need to connect, that would be how. I'm going to, can I save this table information? I don't think I have to. I think it's just going to do it for me. Anyway, so that's our database structure. We are going to need to create a new, potentially multiple new, maybe just one normal flat table. I don't know. We'll start where we start and end up where we end up. But there's the database for you. There's your introduction to DBA. You're welcome. We will start with updating our profile link. And we want our new profile link to point at a profile page, a profile blade template in a page route, for those of you keeping score. So we need to update the profile link when it is available to link out to a to link out to a page where a user can set their favorite food, can see their favorite food trucks, we want this page to also be used for pinning your food truck geolocation, marking your business hours for the day, and adding images, menu items, etc. We don't even want to say etc because we want to be very specific. Adding images and menu items, a truck name. Let's see. We want a name We want an image. We want menu items. We want geolocation, but we want that to be on a click. We want them to have to not manually type in their lat long, because that could be weird. And potentially more in the future. We don't want to assume that everyone is a food truck or food vendor. If a user navigates to profile, we want to assume that they are just an eater. Until they click some add a food truck, I guess. Type CTA. When they click that, we want to remember their food truck associated with their user ID. What else? We want to have a map, but that map is going to come from their geo ID and it won't be on the profile. We want a truck. A truck would have a fancy picture and a title and a name. Do I have a name? Truck name. We would have the menu items for that truck, and we would want them to be able to list their business hours for the day or say I am active or I am closed. Probably listing business hours is better, but we could have something from the home page or something that someone could click if they do have a food truck. Keep the data in the database for future use. We want to normalize the database as effectively as possible. We want, when the user is authenticated and navigates back to their profile page, to display trucks in a collapsed state. When they open the collapsed truck, we load the truck data asynchronously, then display all of it in an editable form. The truck form can be a nested blade component. Yeah, that's pretty thorough, I think. You guys tell me if I'm missing anything. But this should allow somebody to enter the code base or enter the app, hit profile, go through their hit login, go through their login. Then they could go to profile and say, this is a list of your favorites. So you can click one instead of having to go through the search. And then if you do have a truck, it would let you author all the context of that truck, and that context of the trucks will be set on the homepage of the app, and bada bing, bada boom, we have data. So let's see what it does. We'll give it some time because this is a pretty complicated ask. Okay, so Claude, being smart, and because I had it in auto, has changed it to plan mode so it can go through a plan. How many trucks can a person have? Multiple. Why would we ever limit them to one? How should truck images be handled in the first pass? First, real live photos stored in the public disk with MIME validation and truck images table. More work, but it's the real feature. I want Livewire uploads, so let's do that. I want Livewire uploads. I also want to transform any images that are uploaded into a size roughly half into a square 1-to-1 image of a width of, what is that? This is real world demo, guys. I should have had this packed up and ready to go. Most of the time it's going to be in this, so we'll call it 40%, it's 100, so we'll call it 250 pixels. I want to transform any images or uploading 1 to pixels. When we display an image, I want that image to be in WebP format. That's one of the preferred, I think that's why it's WebP, is web preferred, probably not. But it's one of the preferred formats for speed. We're going to be working with potentially many trucks in the future, assuming anybody wants to try out this thing. I'm going to offer it for free. But if they're uploading images, and we're going to have a lot of images, we don't want to drag down our load time just to have the fanciest image possible. And theoretically, this is mostly going to be done on your phone anyway, so I wouldn't want to give them a 1080p massive thing. It's not necessary. When we display an image, I want that image to be in WebP format. We should try to ask the user for a 1-to-1 image ahead of import, but we can downsize the image to an extent. Whatever you feel is appropriate. All right. Boom. Okay, how does the favorites feature? Okay, schema and display. Add a favorite pivot table. That's a pivot table. User ID, food truck ID, and show the user's favorited trucks on the profile page. The heart favorite button on discovery cards in a separate PR. Yes. Okay. We are, yep, image K, a magic K extension in the container, so it's going to go out and get that container extension. The nice thing about working with systems like Laravel that's been around a while and has been around the block and deals with all of this crap for years is it has an effective way to handle this. Most systems will. I think the next app that I build, I'm going to try to get way out of my comfort zone and do some Python, or I like Ruby, but Ruby's old. I'm old. Probably something in Python. And I know that it has its own systems, and you can set an infrastructure to handle any of those things. But Laravel is very good at storing and handling complex data sets. So we're going to do that. All right, let's see. We'll give it some time. Oh. It's going to install Imagic. I always say that wrong. And it's going to install intervention image v3. With those two things, it should be able to allow for an image upload, store the image in a structured format, and then it will render the image in a transformed format to a WebP, which is a lot of development that we can just skip because it has already systems that it can install in the libraries. Okay, so what we're going to do, adds a real profile page with it, which is behind authorization, which is what we want. Treats everyone as an eater until they hit add a food truck. It shows favorited trucks, lists owned trucks collapsed, and lazy loads each truck's editable form. Perfect. We have food trucks, owner plus current pin. That's fine. Truck business hours, 1 row per weekday. Menu items. I don't want a week-long schedule. We want the user to have to pin their geolocation in real time. So I'd like their schedule to be limited to that business day. The other upside of that is not only will it force them to go into the app and mark them as active, it also means that they will be visiting the app over and over and over. We don't geolocation setting is outside the scope of this PR. Just added for context. Yeah, we're already asking a lot of Claude. We don't want to blow it up with additional logic. The more compartmentalized you are, so I'm trying to do feature by feature. I'm sure you guys have noticed that by now. So I'm trying to do feature by feature. And the more compartmentalized you are in the scope of your actual conversation with Claude in your session, the better it will behave. You want to give it just enough to make that work. Pin their geolocation in real time, so I'd like their schedule to be limited. Understood. Business hours are scoped to current business day, set when they go out, not a recurring weekly schedule. And geolocation pinning is out of scope for this PR. Editing tiny prancing hamster. It's always a different, I don't know why they call them those tiny things. It is modifying its plan. So it keeps its plan in memory. If you actually went out and looked at your local user Claude, it has an MD file where it's keeping all of these things. It's updating its verification steps. So when it does a plan, this is just what it's displaying to me. The reality is it's also building all of the test planning docs, all of the database infrastructure docs, all of the pieces are all set into Claude. And we could go look at them if we felt so inclined, but I'm going to kind of let it do what it wants. Geolocation pinning is out of scope for this PR. We keep lat long located at columns on the truck schema. That's fine. So it's adding them to the database, but nothing else. Images uploaded by vendor are center cropped to 1.1, resized to 250, 250, and recoded as WebP. That is great. Favorites. It's a separate follow-up. Data model. We have food trucks. So food truck in the database will have an owner and a current pin live here, which is location. So that it belongs on that row, so they're keeping it in that row. User ID, my food truck, description, and then lat long location label, which we would probably get from Google. What we're going to end up doing is when someone sets a pin, we are going to go out to Google, we're going to grab a map stamp of their location, put it into cache, and then we are going to drop it in the database, and then Livewire can pick that up and display it on the page if it's within a certain range. And we can have a drop menu to say display within 10 miles, display within 50 miles, whatever. I don't know why you'd drive 50 miles for a food truck, but maybe you really love a food truck. Operating hours, 1 row per truck per business date. I don't think we're going to need to keep those, but I guess it's nice. Truck image. which is identified by a food truck ID primary key. Menu items also driven by a food truck ID, name, description, price. They're even including in is available. So if they sell out, they can go in and they can say, nope, not available. Favorites, new pivot table against the user ID with the food truck ID. That's one of their favorites. They're going to do separate rows for each, which is fine. Food truck belongs to user. Image processing using intervention. And it's updating my actual, I don't know. It doesn't really say. This is how it's converting it, but it's not telling me how it's going to show it. I imagine they're going to make their own blade for an image. But it's going under the Livewire and creating in the render. It's saying these are my food trucks and using that to create an expanding collapsing menu where it can Ajax in the form for each truck. It's going to add a new truck form blade and update the profile CSS, which is new. We don't have a profile CSS. It's going to add my Vite tests. It's going to add my on my npm run dev. Oh, this is my full manual test is what it's saying. And it's going to sync Claude README technical docs as well. Cool. Let's do it. All right, we'll let it spin. So we're gonna let that spin, and we'll come back to this tomorrow and let you know where it lands. Yeah, some of my workout buddies canceled on me, so now I'm back. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. We're gonna do it now. It walked me through the entire plan and made my edits. So let's go take a quick overview look at those edits. First, and the reason that I led with SQL in this session. So it added multiple database tables. It added my food trucks table, which is going to use a food truck ID, and the foreign ID is user ID, which is what I was leaning towards. So our user table has a unique ID that will match the user ID on the trucks. So it's saying that these trucks are owned by this individual. It has a name, a description, lat long. Those are for future work, and is published. I think it starts as unpublished until you do your initial save, and then it will publish. That way it has a holding place so you can associate the other tables. We have truck operating hours. It requires a unique food truck ID and business date, but that normalizes the data so that if you have 10 trucks, each truck can have its own line with its own truck operating hours in it. We have truck images, where it's going to take that food truck ID as the primary key, and it's going to have a path string. I think that what it's doing, path always points at a WebP. So this is saving it to, the file is uploaded to our file system, but this is pointing the reference at that file, if that makes sense. And then we have menu items, which are keyed to the food truck ID, and name, description, price, and availability flag, and favorites for our non-truck users. And we will look a little bit at it, and we'll look at pre-populating it so that when we deploy this thing, it can come with some stuff by default. It's set this food truck factory so that it can create that food truck logic, and then it's set up some new components for me with some styling. It followed our style guide. It inherited them into the app.css for us. We have, we removed one of our dependencies. So I was testing, if you recall, I said I wanted to fix it. I was testing our 2FA and email process, our flow, and it was giving me this weird double click where you would have to hit enter twice or something, and it looks like that was because of Alpine. So it said we no longer need it, and it's been removed. I think we'll probably get rid of that note, but that's what that's referring to. We stood up some new blades. It has just changed our routing. This used to be a hard-coded, it's an octothorpe, a pound sign, so that it would go back to the home. Now it's actually routing to profile. Same with the header. And then we have our new template for the truck form, which is giving me some basic, we might want to do some validation on it too. It also is setting some defaults. We'll go look at that. It should set up a blade shell. This is where we're going to have our, it's taking our main nav and injecting it into any of these places that are being housed. So when we go to the profile page, that profile page will be dropped into the slot, and this will be the shell that wraps it. That's what it's doing. We've also set up our Livewire so that it's very quick and usable. This is still using a blade, but the format is going to be a little bit different so that I can build it out. You can see truck disclosure. I don't know what the truck disclosure is. We'll have to look at it, but it looks like it's loading for truck editor in Livewire, getting the truck ID. This is loading it in so that multiple trucks will render in one blade, which is the power of using Livewire, is it happens immediately. It doesn't wait for a PHP refresh. It doesn't wait for a page load to do that. And that's why these are in Livewire. We're going to see probably everything ultimately end up in Livewire. All these components will probably migrate as they become dynamic. That's what I imagine is going to happen. We added our new route for profile page. It added some tests. So there's some basic PHP tests for profile page and for the editor, saying that we don't want someone to load someone else's truck. We don't want to wait. So when it loads a truck, we want it to load when we expand, which is what we asked it for. There's also information in here built. So this store truck image. It does not look like this is extending anything. So this is net new action to take the image that they upload and then decode it so they get a real file path and set it to the size. And it uses the web encoder to store that, and then it will render it. This is the path that's rendering. This is what it'll save as, and it's stored on a public space in the code base. Okay, so all that looks fine. Let's go ahead and test. So I'm going back to home. I'm going to start this all net new. I've got my, oh, there's something new here. This is very cutting edge stuff for what that means, which is not much. Claude now has a Chrome extension that's in beta. If you want Claude to be self-testing, you can install this extension, give it rights, and it will go out to the browser and test for you in real time, which is good for handling technically difficult issues. It's very, very new, so I wouldn't start with that. I would start with it doing its own thing, but it is there. And that's what this is referring to. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that group for now. Okay, I'm clearing my mail pit because I don't want to see all these different emails. And I'm going to create a new email for test user. And I've got to expand this style a little bit to make it full screen as well. Let's just do tsage@mail.com test 1 2 3 4. Oh no. Okay, it's going to send that out to my mail pit. There it is. I'm going to use my magic link. It's still going to work. And then I can set my password to I'm actually being deliberate this time because I want to have a test user. And because of the way we encrypt this and encode it, the InfoSec guidelines are very strict. So we'll do test. We'll do street bytes. 1 2 3 4 street bytes. It's just going to be that kind of day, isn't it? Okay, so we're authenticated. I'm going to I'm not going to delete my wife's. One of the things I support is a foster, and that is the login information for my foster when I'm doing development. That's why it keeps popping up. So anyway, we've authenticated. My login now says profile, so should the hamburger, what? I think it removed my bug. I'm going to let it spin. It's not dependent on that. So my hamburger menu that was working so nice isn't working now. But if I go to profile, trucks you love, if you run one, your own to manage. I don't love that language either. Favorited trucks, you haven't favorited any trucks. Your food trucks. Run a food truck, add it, set today's hours, menu, and photos. Okay. So the truck name is going to be test food truck. I'm going to extend this a little bit. I want to add, what are they called? I guess it would be tags. So that you can say, this is Chinese, or this is Chinese American, this is tasty barbecue, or whatever. A food truck that serves food. And this, I'll be shocked. I don't love that library. If it's using a library, it's not my favorite. So we're going to say that we're open from 12:24 till 7:30 p.m. And I'll probably have this update so that opens can be now and closes we would set. But for now, that's fine. It's all stylized. And it's like there's an inline line. I guess that's fine. Square photos look best. We crop and resize each upload to a 250 thumbnail. Let's upload an image. So Oh. Yeah, that's not ADA. That's not hitting ADA compliance. But it looks like if I hit add a photo, it will add a photo. So I have a favorite testing image because it's totally obnoxious and not at all related to actual trucks. So I'm going to save this image as whatever and see if that will upload. Oop, I've got too many windows. Okay, let's upload an image. That image, upload field is required. Hey, look at that. It even gives me a little square with this X. Some of this is going to require some tweaking. I'm not really satisfied with that yet. Menu item. Let's say French fries. And it's going to be $3. Fries of the French variety. And it's going to be available. I'll add one more. Let's call this onion rings. And this is going to be $5. Oh, rings of onion in an O shape. Okay, let's take that. I don't want to delete my truck. Did it tell me it's saved? That is not great. And it's flashing, which is also not ADA compliant. So we should have a your changes have been saved type of message. So we'll need to add that in. But I've saved a truck. Now let's see if it's stored. I'm going to open up my SQLAce. Now we have two menu items. We have a French fries and onion rings. We have descriptions, when was it created, and it's tied to food truck number 1, which is correct. We have one food truck. We have an image that's set to a encoded image. This is our food truck ID. This is the rest of the encoded image, and it is set into a file. Should be under public. The question is, where is that? Oh, there it is. Oh, that's my public. Okay. Maybe it's, well, we'll find out. So it's all saved. So when I save it, I need to make it have a something saying you've saved this. I also need to make, man, Alpine is apparently more necessary than I thought. We're a little buggy. I can't seem to get, oh, they're all going to profile. That's lovely. Okay, well, let's update that ourselves. So that's going to be in the footer, which is in not Bootstrap, not public. Storage tests. It's not in Livewire. Okay. All right. So I've got the nav blade. That's why. So it made the route for home is still that. It needs to be a leading slash. And map can also be a leading slash for now. Let's not get that smart yet. Let's just make them a leading slash. And when I save that, it should automatically reset it so that I can go back and test it. It did, on a page reload, collapse my food trucks, so I can add multiple food trucks. It looks like the image is maintained, which is good. I can now navigate to home, and I need to get it so these start showing up for home. So let's go back to Claude. Locate head body markers. That's not... Oh. This is because I lost my hamburger. I forgot what I was doing. So this was driven by Alpine. Now it's not. Add Livewire scripts to every layout. On the auth pages, a manual Livewire script simply replaces the auto injection so that it doesn't call that JavaScript library twice. So that's what was happening to make me double click. So this is what it's doing now. Now it can go out to my browser and open it. So there's this piece. You'll actually see it navigate as well. See, there it is. So it can click around and do these things for us. Now Claude can resize the window so that it makes that visible. And then it will open it. And what's interesting is you can follow it. So I can see what it's doing. If I want it to pre-populate, and we could even, if it has the context, it could do it in dev. It could do it not live, but it could do it in an environment. So now the hamburger opens. It's going to go through and see if this form entry works with a single click, and it drives the verification token and all of those things. All right, so it's going to check my linter. So that's pretty neat. When we get to a point where we're getting closer to shipping this, I'm probably going to stand up some Playwright. I have a little bit of experience with Playwright, but Playwright will run scripts to automatically test from the front end and end-to-end flow. So we can write scripts to say, hey, take what you just tested, Claude, and build it into a Playwright script so that we can verify it on the fly. Any that use X data would need Livewire scripts. I only found welcome and style guide as standalone pages. That's the rule to remember. Okay, so it's fixed that. Let me make sure, see that it didn't log me out. Okay, it didn't log me out. So I want to, we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to fix something that's easy to fix. So when we save changes, CTA, we should have some kind of alert, maybe a full page, or maybe a toast to confirm the submission that the data has been saved. Right now it just saves it. With no context for the user. Which is more ADA compliant. So it knows, because we've already established it, and it's already in the Claude.md. We want all of our styles to be ADA compliant, and we want to maintain that standard. But sometimes it's got enough context that's doing right now, it just loses some of that. So you need to make sure that you test every run. All of your new features are captured. It did a lot of really nice things for us without us even asking, because we set up the style guide and because it's all in context. But there's little things that matter. And if you sold this to a client, that client would say, what is going on when I click this button? So toast is good for save confirmation, lightweight, not blocking. Toast event, app-wide toast region in the shell. So yeah, it's going to have that shell, if I can find it again. So the profile page is nested Livewire. It's going to nest inside the shell, which I thought the shell was a component, but it must not be a component. It must be a... This is the reason that you need to follow along with Claude, is because if you don't actually look at how it's playing together, you'll never remember any of this. You need to have context into how it works, and just having it go, I want an app that does all of these things, you lose the context. Even with this feature-driven development lifecycle, I'm having trouble finding where things are because I didn't write them. So it's very important that you keep that up. So that is not a component. So components are in views. It's a layout. Ah, there it is. So there's the entire app is in layouts app, and then everything inside of this slot is probably going to seat inside of shell, or is going to be inside the full page, and the page is driven by this Livewire profile. Or it's not driven by Livewire profile, it's driven by the full page component. Yeah. And then Livewire houses the pieces that are working with Livewire. Am I talking correctly? Does any of that make sense? Claude. So it's going to do a change truck editor to give me a toast. The toast says change saved. It's actually adding that toast into the wider container, which is the slot, which is going to be in views shell blade. So we should see it land here. We have photo added when you upload a photo. Photo removed when you delete a photo. Oh, that is so much better than not saying anything at all. Truck deleted. Beautiful. So, truck editor PHP fires a toast. There's a new toast blade component. That would be this. So, in the toast blade component, it's going to live in the toast region that's set into the wider shell. It lives above the bottom nav on mobile. from anywhere you can dispatch and say, what's my message? Okay. So now, when I go here, add a new food truck, and my new food truck is going to be my food truck. I serve beef brisket, which is kind of an oxymoron, but that's fine. We're going to say I open at 12:45 and I close at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock p.m. I'm going to add brisket, and my brisket's going to be $15. Ooh, not $25. Who's going to pay $25? It is available, and I'm going to have a photo. I need to update this too. Maybe I'll just ask it to do that. But let's just give it the same photo. File upload, and it gives me a photo added. Now when I save, change is saved. I might add some extra logic there just to make it nice. And next time we can tie it all together and make things populate with data so that we're seeing our images, we're seeing it in real time. We can add a truck. Maybe we'll get into some geolocation also and see what we can do there. But we also will run our prompt to update the documentation, because it's very important you do that. And then we'll commit this to GitHub. It'll be there if you want to see it. That's it for today. I think that's enough. Thank you for sticking with me. If you want to talk about something in particular, or if you have questions or thoughts or concerns, you can drop them into the YouTube comments. Please continue watching, and we'll keep growing this thing together. All right. Thanks so much.